This is the last Sunday in January, and because we've been doing theme-based worship, the theme for January has been possibility. So we've considered possibility in a few different ways. And next month, February, the theme is trust. I trust it will go well. For this final sermon on possibility, I want us to consider what happens, what might be possible if we decenter ourselves from reactivity and into creative response. Now, back when I was still new to Texas, I met up with Black Eyed Peas for the first time. I was not impressed. Despite all of the seasonings, the onions and the pepper and all that, my Midwestern palate, to me, they tasted like dirt. And so I just avoided Black Eyed Peas for several years. Until one day I was talking with a friend of mine who's from Alabama, and this is a person I really respect, whose opinions and experience I pay close attention to. And somehow the subject of Black Eyed Peas came up, and I probably wrinkled my nose and said, yeah, I just don't get it. They taste like mud. And she kind of tipped her head and she said, well, that's part of their charm. So, figuring that if that was part of their charm, I tried them again. This time I was approaching Black Eyed Peas as if that muddy taste might be charming. And within a few more tries, I was convinced. And now I actually do like a Black Eyed Pea. Granted, I like a red bean or a butter bean a little more, but a Black Eyed Pea, I have, yes, truly found the muddy charm of a Black Eyed Pea. So that's what I'm after today. Considering what happens when we approach living, this whole process of living, as if. Now, granted, living as if flies against strict rationality that tells you to deal only and exactly with what is. Living as if encourages us to consider what might be. I consider this a way of breaking up my certainty, of decentering my fixedness, and to remain flexible in this ever-changing world. So here goes. All right, first exercise, consider something that is uncomfortable, maybe something annoying, muddy tasting, something maybe ominous. Then go and explore, consider how you might engage, how you might respond to this thing differently. In psychotherapy, this practice is called reframing. And it's taking the view you're holding and shifting it slightly with a different framework to understand it differently. Cognitive reframing consists of identifying and then displacing certain thoughts with ideas or thoughts that are more positive. So it's a useful way of taking the things that have that we fear, that have power over us, and reducing some of the fear. Examine your thoughts. See if you can shift them to something a little less fearful, something maybe affirming. Are you dreading an upcoming conversation with a person you just know they're going to say this, and then you're going to have to say that, and it's just not going to be easy or good? Okay, now instead, think about how it might go well. Think about how in this conversation, you're probably going to learn something you didn't know before. Think about who you want to be after this conversation. And then go have that conversation as if All of these positive things are possible. Yes, the conversation might still be difficult, but you will have more control over how you respond and how you interpret the outcome. Here's another example. Here comes a terrible snowstorm, and it's going to be icy. And what if in this cold, icy morning, I go out to pick up the newspaper and I slip on some ice and I bust my backside? That's possible. But instead of getting all anxious, worrying about the what if that isn't here yet, what if I reframe my anticipation of this cold weather differently? What if it does get icy, I will pay attention to the beautiful frost crystals that form on my window? What if it does get icy, I look out and see a million refracting ice crystals turning sunlight into prisms of rainbows on each blade of grass? Perhaps then I will walk out to get the newspaper as if this is a world filled with beauty instead of peril. I also might decide that I can wait inside until the ice melts and just not even pay attention to that morning's news, because really, the weather's trying to tell me something. What does this whole practice mean in terms of our interactions with one another? Okay. Do you find yourself disappointed by other people on a daily basis? What if you went about your days as if there really is a spark of the divine in every person, including you? How would you look at the person who's checking out your groceries or taking your blood pressure? How would you go about your day's chores and errands as if every person you meet today has a gift, including you? And if you were to treat every person as if they have actually learned something good about being in this world, perhaps you will ask them different questions. Maybe you will listen to learn from them. What would be different if you acted as if each person matters, including you? Each person, even those people who are very different from you, what might be different in your interactions with that person who holds these terrifyingly different ideas from you? Can you still see the spark of the divine in that person? What gift are they carrying? Can you see their simple desire to just be a good person? If at one point your life was made difficult by another person, consider living, reflecting as if that person had been trying to do their best. Because that's what most people are trying to do. Yes, they might have harmed you, they may have made an absolute wreck of everything, but unless they were seriously unwell, and even if they were seriously unwell, they probably thought that they were doing the best thing. Now, I acknowledge it might take some visits with a counselor, it might take some serious reframing work, but in time, we can recognize this, and perhaps it will ease some pain. Here's another way of practicing living as if. Okay, kids, if you want, you can join in with me in making these movements. When we do Tai Chi, sometimes we move in such a way as to imitate the movements of animals or elements of nature. We'll imitate birds and snakes lions and tigers, and we'll create waves of water. We'll grow like trees. We'll rise up like mountains, and we'll blow like grass in the wind. I know I'm not a tree. I'm not an ocean. I'm not a snake. But in moving as if, I come to understand all these things better. By drawing the shape of branches and leaves, by moving my arms like wings, I become more aware of the beauty of a tree. I come to understand what makes a bird powerful. What happens if we try living as if, mindful of the concept of karma, and then overlay it with the law of conservation? Energy is never lost, it's just transformed from one form to another. What would it be like to live as if everything you do to another person will come back to you, sometimes from another person? Would you become more cautious or more extravagant? What would be different if you lived as if animals have feelings and important concerns? Would you have to adjust how you interpret their behaviors? Would you have to adjust how you eat them? How would you conduct yourself living as if your entire life is an ongoing process of discovery that never ends? Okay, what about our interactions with the all that is, aka God, universe, infinity? Do you find yourself unimpressed and disappointed by the world on a daily basis? What might happen if you carried on as if there was a great mother who was with you during the awful moments? A great mother that called you sweet cakes, with a love that abides in you and with you, and laughs at you and nudges you to be your best you. What would be different if you prayed as if your prayers were heard by the universe and manifested as change within you and ultimately out into the larger world? What would it be like? What would it be like to consider the words of Gerard Manley Hopkins and live as if the world is charged with the grandeur of God? What might happen if you went about as if the world wanted you, was expecting you, was waiting for you to show up and participate more fully? Would you dance more freely? Would you say yes to every flower that springs up at your feet? Would you be kinder to yourself, living as if, saying thank you was truly all that was expected of you? I would suggest that all this is possible. It's worth a try. Living as if. May it be so, and blessed be.